Hello everyone, welcome to this video tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to introduce another technical analysis indicator, MACD. The MACD stands for Moving Average Convergence and Divergence. It's a indicator derived from the moving average pairs, so it can be used as the trend follower. Also, can be used as the price strength and the momentum indicator. So okay, let's go straight into our application. As you can see, I have already have the PHP the charts open. This one is called AMP. Um, if you want to adding the MACD into your chart in the application, once you open the chart, click on the indicators drop down list right here, and click on the MACD. So once you click on that, as you can see, we introduce this indicator into the chart. So once the indicator is open, um, so here is the area we can configure the drawing or any aspect of this indicator. All right, if you don't want it, or you can remove it. So basically, click that close button below this area, and you can delete that indicator from the chart. Okay, sometimes you are clicking, you close that. Sometimes when you open up and you close that indicator pan right here, but you don't know how to close it, in this situation you can just click here and bring up any other indicator. For example, moving average. As you can see, the indicator setting pan is bring back, and if you want to remove the MACD from your chart, you just expand this MACD part and click the close button, and then you remove the MACD. Cool. Let's bring it back. Let's talk about the configuration. So once you open the MACD indicator, so first one is you can change the fast EMA parameter. So the fast EMA default is 12, but you can change to another number, for example, 15. Oops. As you can see, also the slow moving average parameter. So right now we are using number 26, basically using the 26 of units to calculate the slow and moving average, and you can change that as well. Okay, as you can see, once you change those settings, and the MACDs automatically draw according to your latest setting or input. For example, we also can let's bring everything back to the default. The 9 means the signal lines average unit number. You can change as well. The default we're using 9 units of the MACD number to calculate the signal line value, but you can change it to a longer period, and then if you do so, you can see the pink lines redrawn again, and it becomes more smooth. So it's just a input that people user to configure those parameters to draw MACD. All right, the last one, sorry, it's not the last one, obviously. So next one is the close, the calculation base. So what that means is we are using, you can configure what type of price to calculate the moving average. So first of all, the default is we are using closing price to calculate the fast and slow EMA. Okay, so but you can change it to something else. For example, low price as well. You can see slight changes, but default we're using closing price. The closing price as default is very important. We have said many times the closing price has lots of information, as it's a very significant price because it's include the entire units trading unit information. If you daily chart, the closing price of the daily chart is include all the information in the entire trading day. If it's weekly chart, the closing price of weekly chart means the closing price already included the entire week's information. Also, the closing price normally, go along with the big trading volume, so it's very significant price. Okay, That's that part. The rest of them are this MACD uh, drawing configuration. So you can obviously change the MACD line color, right? So we can change it white, and also you can change the signal line color as well, or we can change it as to yellow. The MACD line width slider, okay, left and right. Also the MACD lines dash offset value, you can change it to a dashed MACD line. Sorry, okay. And then there is the signal line width and the signal line dash as well. Okay. The last one is the histogram color. Histogram color, you see this histogram drawing above or beneath the zero line. So that's the histogram color. I'll change it to color to white. You can see more clearly. And also we have a setting to fill the histogram. If you don't want to see those bars, you can see the area line, and you check this checkbox. As you can see, the histogram becomes the fill becomes the area chart. So that's the part. Okay, once you are very happy about all the settings, and you can click that save button right here. Once you click on that, and then you save all this configuration into your unified chart opening mode, right? So that means whenever you open a chart, this MACD in such a style will also open for you. You don't need to configure once again. So this being normally used when it depends on the traders or users' habits. So what's your favorite indicators you want to be open whenever every chart is open? You wanted those indicators also be open. So that's the unified chart opening mode. Okay. So that's the drawing and parameter settings part of the MACD. As usual, this is also can be used as a filter, indicator filter. I used in the market scanning. Okay, so first of all, if you go into the indicator filters and you right click anywhere and you say add a filter, so here you can add conditions. If you click on the add a condition button, you can select you can select the MACD indicator from the drop down list. So basically you want to set up a condition based on this indicator, and here you can see those items are very familiar. The chart type basic saying what's this MACD is based on, a weekly chart or daily chart. For example, you put it on weekly chart, and its calculation based for the moving averages are based on our closing price. And you can keep all these other numbers as default. Once you set up all of those, and you expand the option drop down list, as you can see the many functions already here you can use. For example, the first one is you say I want to see all the shares or all the charts with the MACD line over the center line. You can move above the center line is true, okay, because this yes or no question, this function. So you say you have to specify is true or is false. Right now we say it's true and save conditions. As you can see, this condition has been saved inside this filter, and you can add more conditions right here, but for now I'll just show you the first one. As you can see, these conditions created based on the MACD on closing price 12.26.9. That's default values to set up this MACD, and the condition is the MACD line over center line. The center line is 0.9. This condition is true. Okay, give me all the shares like this, right? So we will have very detailed video tutorials later on in other playlists. So there's more advanced operations. We will give you guys in-depth video tutorial to cover this part. But for now, I'll just show you MACD can be used here. Okay, let's just close that indicator filter. Let's back to our MACD tutorial contents. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next chart, and talk more about the MACD. Okay, so um, the MACD indicator is actually calculated by using a pair of moving average, right? So the MACD indicator is introduced in the 1960s. Um, so the traders, when this indicator is derived by the moving average. So as you can see, any indicator is, if it is derived, if it is based on the moving average lines, and it can be used as a trade following tool, because it's trend related. Okay, so focused, because moving average is a trend focused indicator. Anything based on that is also trend related. So you can use it as a trend monitor. Um, okay, so how we calculate this MACD line actually is by using a pair of moving average EMA. As you can see, um, we have a faster moving average EMA, which is 12 weeks, because I'm opening a weekly chart. So that's the light blue one, and also we have a slow EMA, 26 weeks EMA. Oh, that's the pink dashed line. Okay, just looking into the chart right now, the MACD line actually is using, this faster EMA's value, okay, and the minus the slow EMA value, and it come up a L value. We have this value to populate of a plot of a MACD line. So as you can see, if the faster moving average, faster EMA, that blue line, is beneath the slow EMA, and that the value is negative, the MACD is below. As you can see, the MACD line is below the zero. Okay, but if the faster EMA is above the slower EMA, of course that value becomes a positive value, and as you can see, the MACD value runs above the zero line. So that's the MACD line value, how we calculate it. Okay, but how we calculate this pink dashed signal line, that is using, we are calculating 9 units of EMA of MACD number to come up this signal line. Okay, so the signal line is actually a moving average of a MACD value. All right, it's nothing to do with this. The actual EMA is actually based on the MACD value. So we smooth further for this MACD to get an even smooth signal line. Okay, so that's the signal line, how we calculate it. The last thing is how we calculate this histogram. Let me just bring it back to white, and you can see clearly. As you can see, this signal line, this is histogram bars either above or below the zero line. That value is calculated by the distance of this MACD line and the signal line. Okay, so we're using MACD line minus the signal line's value. We come up a histogram value. So if the MACD line is above the signal line, as you can see, the histogram is positive value, right? Because it's above the signal line. But right here, as you can see, the MACD line is well below the signal line, so the histogram is a negative value, right? So as you can see, the histogram move below the zero line, we come up a negative histogram. If you fill them up, you can see more clearly here. Cool. So that's how we populate this MACD. Now I'm going to talking about the most common use of this type of indicator. Before I move that part, I already have a as you can see, those buy sells here inside the chart. We can actually generate, by using a pair of moving average, a slow and a fast moving average can generate buy and sell signals, right? What I'm seeing is, if I'm hiding this bar chart by only looking at the moving average, when the faster moving average move across above the slow moving average, if we buy here, right, and we sell when the faster moving average, which is a blue line, 12 EMA, move below the 26 EMA, we sell here again. So as you can see, we do have lots of profit. And once again, when this faster EMA is move above the slow EMA again, we buy again. When it stays above, when the faster EMA stays above the slow EMA, we hold. Okay, we do nothing. Once we see the EMA cross down again, and we sell. Okay, it cross above again, we buy, and then we sell. Etc. By using this method, you can generate some good buy and sell signals. But the condition is this share has to be in a solid uptrend or downtrend. If the share is in the zigzags or in the consolidation, as you can see right here, you can't. The faster EMA moving very frequently above and below the slower moving average line. So there's a lot of noise here. You can't generate very clean buy and sell signals, right? So that's just be careful and when you use this method. Okay, so as you can see, if you because look at the okay, so when we look at is the MACD line, as you can see, when the faster EMA move above the slower EMA, and meanwhile the MACD line, you can see the blue MACD line itself is crossing from below the zero line and cross above the zero line. As you can see, when this faster and slower moving average, clustered together, the MACD line is reached to zero. So instead of seeing on the chart, you can basically generate the same buy and sell signals by only looking at when this blue MACD line cross above or below the zero line. Let's just go through again. If the MACD line cross above the zero line, you buy. Same here, as you can see, that's pretty much the same time, and you sell here. When the MACD line cross above the zero line again, you buy again. Okay, so it's when it's running above the zero line, the MACD line, you hold. Once here, as you can see, the blue lines cross below the MACD line again, you sell. And now here, a tiny bit is moving back again above the zero line, you buy, and you hold. Once you get here, as you can see, that's pretty much the same. You can generate the same buy and sell signals by only looking at the crossover of a MACD line with the zero line. Okay, the reason of this is because the MACD value is calculated based on the faster EMA divided minus the slower EMA. So that value, if it's zero, the MACD line is always reached to zero. So that's why you can use the MACD line cross above and below the zero line to generate the same buy and sell signal, just like this moving average pair right here. Cool, so that's that part. But there is another type of crossover signal. Is some people think the buy and sell signal generated by the moving average pair or MACD line cross above the zero line is too late, right? For example, if you're buying, how about we buy from here? So that's some people using a MACD line cross the signal line right here. See the blue line cross above the signal line, which is a pink one. Some people buy here, right? So that's good. So if you buy from here, you have an even better entry point from this type of crossover, right? So you buy much earlier, you have better position yourself. Okay, same here. As you can see, if you see the MACD line stays above the signal line, you hold, but you see the MACD line cross below the signal line, you sell. So that's the MACD line, the signal line crossover, and also can generate the buy and the sell signals. And also, in some circumstances, it provides even better buy and sell signals. As you can see, if you sell here, it's much better than you sell here, right? So you sell earlier when the price is falling, so you have more profit. All right, same again, and this time it's pretty much because the same buying up timing. The blue MACD line move above the signal line, buy here. It stays, you hold, But as you can see this time, the MACD line is moving below the signal line right here. You have to sell. But if you're using the moving average pair, you have a better sell points because you sell later, you have more profit. So it's hard to, you know, to say which crossover you're using. Um, as you can see, either way, you have different benefits and disadvantages. Sometimes both method, moving average pair buy and sell signals, and the MACD and signal line crossover buy and sell signals sometimes works well, sometimes doesn't. It generates false signals, so it's up to the trader by using other type of by using more indicators and other price action and analysis, and also your background and fundamental analysis. You have to combine all the information together. You cannot rely on a single indicator itself because sometimes it generates false signals. Okay, so this is another type of crossover to generate buy and sell signals, is the MACD and signal line crossover. Okay, to generate those type of signals. Okay, so that's another type of usage. All right, I already told you the pros and cons. So you have to estimate it yourself and which method you want to use. Okay, so another thing is in terms of the trend following. As you can see, if the signal line is the MACD, if this MACD line stays above the signal line, sometimes prefer to have some gap. All right, so not close to each other clearly. As you can see, if you see this type of phenomenon, and that means the MACD indicator tells you this underlying uptrend is very strong. Okay, when you see the signal line and MACD line start to, crossing each other frequently, and then that means the underlying either up or downtrend is in question. It just gives you a warning signal, right? Let's see another places here. As you can see, the MACD line not stay away from signal line, but they twisted it with each other and cross over and down, and very frequently when you see here, as you already know, the trend is in question. It doesn't tell you when exactly time the trend will reverse. It doesn't tell you the exact timing. All right, so it just show you this might be happening in some time in the future. So you need to use another method to time in yourself for the sell or buy action. So that's another usage of this MACD indicator. Some people think might ask question is if the MACD line's directions matters. For example, it's moving above and down and up, moving above and sloping down, and this doesn't really tells you anything. For example, if you think the MACD line moving above means the trend is moving up, and that is a big mistake. As you can see here, this is a solid downtrend for this AMP. As the trade, the price is moving solid downwards, but as you can see, the MACD and the signal line moving consistently moving up, right? So I mean that direction doesn't tell you the trend direction, but there is one thing you can see the trend direction by using the MACD indicator is you don't looking at these directions, okay? So down, up, and down, but there is another thing you can look at is when the MACD line and the signal line most of the time stay beneath the zero line. Okay, from here, when you see these two lines, it always stays below the zero line. You don't need to look at it in the share chart itself. By only looking at the indicator, you already know this share is in a downtrend. Why? Because these two lines always stays below the zero line, means the faster moving average line, the faster moving average is always below, as you can see here, always below the slower moving average. So in order the share price moving down, the moving average of a faster moving average or EMA has to stay below the slower moving average or EMA. Okay, so once again you can see here from this point in time the MACD line is penetrates below the zero line and stays below the zero line, along with the signal line for such a long time, as you can see, the shares in the solid downtrend. If you want to go buy long, you don't even think about it when the signal line and the MACD line stays below, or well below the zero line, and you have to stay away from this type of share. Okay, so the same theory applies to the uptrend. When you see the MACD line and the signal line stays always above, 90% of the time above the zero line, you already know this share is in the uptrend. Okay, so the direction itself doesn't tell you, but the proportion of the time both signal line and MACD line stays above the zero line does tell you the trend. Okay, so that's another usage of that. So I want to share you some tips of this type of information you get from MACD. Well, what I mean is, if the share is in a downtrend, the MACD line crossover might be more accurate from one certain type. For example, MACD line is signal line below the zero line is downtrend. So the MACD line, when the MACD line moves below the signal line, it could be a very good shorting signal. If you want to short this share, for example, right here, when you see these shares in the downtrend and signal line and MACD line stays below the zero line, when you see the MACD line move below the signal line right here, as you can see, because it's a downtrend, so this type of crossover, the MACD line move below the signal line, maybe have more probability the share will keep moving down. So if you put your short position right here, for example, and you can see you do have some profit. Another time is here when the MACD line once again move below the signal line, and that's another shorting position, a shorting opportunity. Okay, another time here, here. So conversely, because the signal line and MACD line stays below the zero line downtrend, so in this type of situation, you don't. When the signal line moves above when the MACD line moves above the signal line, it might not give you a higher probability this share moving up. So this type of crossover you tend to ignore because it's well below the zero line. See such gap between the zero, and when this time if you buy from here, you do get a couple of weeks up, but eventually the price is turned around and keep moving lower. Okay, same theory applies for a uptrend. As you can see, if the price stays always above the zero line, that means the share is in an uptrend. And when this type of this one might be not a good example because it have such big trading range. Let's just change another one. For example, here probably more better. So when this signal line and the MACD line stays well above the zero line, the crossover, you don't put a short. Yes, you do, but yes, it depends. So because in here, if you short, you do have some profit, but once again, when this signal line moves above, MACD line move above the signal line again, and you buy, you cover your short. So yeah, it does the same thing. But what I really mean is in the uptrend situation, so you don't short it too often by using this MACD line turns below the signal line, because it might give you a false signal, right? If you short here, as you can see, is move back quickly again and keep moving well above your shorting position, and you have to cover your short again. So that's the caveat when you using this method. All right, so this is the trend following part. Now let's move into another type of information that MACD can give us is the momentum, well, which is the price move, the momentum part of the information. Uh, so what I mean by momentum is, well, when you look at a histogram, right? The momentum actually, if it is a downtrend, if the price moving quickly, to reach the new low, as you can see, this is solid, down, uh, down, solid movement to move down. As you can see, the histogram creates the higher high. You can see a very clear histogram here. The histogram here means the gap between the MACD line, between the signal line. Also, it indirectly means the faster EMA is moving, if moving further away from the slower EMA, that means the trend. That means the down movement is very strong. As you can see here, the histogram is very long, and right here the same with the uptrend. So if the histogram is reaching a higher high here, and it's clearly you can see the histogram is growing, become longer, and that means the uptrend is strong. So that's the histogram. By looking at the histogram, you can tell the behind price movement is the momentum is strong or not. All right. This is one type of the momentum. Another thing is you only read the MACD value. Okay, don't look at the. So another type of momentum is if you see the MACD line itself doesn't create a new high, as you can see here from here, right? So that means the momentum is weakening. The price strength is weakening. The trend behind the scene might be weakening as well. So it's give you an indication, but doesn't give you exact timing, right? So from the momentum, you can read how strong the trend is. Based on the momentum, we have another concept that MACD can give us is the divergence with the price action. So that's quite some time traders using this type of information to actually try to get the trend behind the price movement is weakening or or strengthening. All right, so let's move into this divergence and convergence part. All right, so there's two types of convergence based on the momentum I just described. The first of all is we're using the momentum of we read the MACD line itself. As you can see here, when the price moving high in this period of time, but the MACD line actually create a lower low. So this type of divergence, the MACD line and the price divergence. All right. Another thing is if you see the histogram is shrinking. All right. So when the price creating higher high, but the histogram creating lower low, and that's another type of divergence. If both of the divergence, appears, and you have to be really very careful that the trend behind the price action is really weakening or strengthening. So as you can see, this time the BHP has a very abrupt fall sometime after this divergence appears. Okay, so that's the divergence and the MACD divergence and a histogram divergence. All right, let's see if we can see find another divergence somewhere or not. Okay, right here, but we can't prove it. So basically what happened in here is or maybe here is not a good example. So basically in the downtrend, you can find pretty much the same signals, but I haven't found a good example right here. Yeah, so I do find another good example in here is the price um, can pre-warning people what's happening. You can see from here the price is moving high. MACD is flattening or a little bit low here, and also the histogram is very obviously the histogram is has a divergence with the price action. As you can see, the price does fall and falling into the consolidation for quite some time after that is happening. So that's another type of divergence. So basically, when you're using the divergence, you're trying to use it more. You try to using more indicators to help to indicate to further prove this divergence does provides the information that a weakening trend. Uh, but anyway, so I'm going to show you guys is just the usage of this divergence and convergence. Okay, hopefully I explained clearly. But in terms of trade, basically the indicator is just so when you're doing a technical analysis, well, basically what you want to do is first of all, the most important thing is the price movement and the support and resistance and the trading volume, etc. Okay, so those are very important. This is your first-hand information in terms of technical analysis, right? So you have to focus on the volume and the price action itself first, and then use an indicator to further improve your analysis or a judgment. So don't pay too much attention on the one single particular indicator. Focus on the trend, focus on the analysis on the chart itself. By using the indicator, you can get more information to further, increase your probability of winning. Okay, so I think that's all I've got for the MACD. I hope you guys enjoying the contents, and if you have more experience you want to share with us how you're using the MACD, please leave your comments below. I know that will be very appreciated that if you share your tips as well. So okay, thanks for your time to stay with us for such a long time, to almost 40 minutes. All right, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.